Afternoon, YouTube. Shit, not dead yet, even though I keep trying to convince my partner that the man flu is in fact life-threatening. She just keeps telling me to stop being a wimp. So here I am. Anyway, thanks to the guys who commented on the last videos. They're significantly shorter than usual, which is, you know, out of sorts for us, but for obvious reasons I'm losing my voice, and that's not pleasant. Anyway, I wanted to respond to a guy who actually, he saw the YouTube channel, an Indian fella, actually no, Sri Lankan, and he's got a family back home. He was watching my video about sizing batteries, and he was asking about building a flooded lead acid battery like in an IBC, and I sort of suggested to him it's probably not a good idea, but that you should go for lithium for a number of reasons. Anyway, I used the term days of autonomy, and that clearly sort of confused him. He sort of struggling to understand what I meant. And I suppose my primary point was that like the thing with AGMs or flooded lead acid batteries is you got a bit of an absorption time, you've got inefficiencies in the process of like charging. I'm personally, I'm a fan. I quite like them. I do like these more, but I would knock someone who went off grid using AGMs or flooded lead acid. If that's what you can afford, that's what you should do. But what it came down to for me is that the accounting is significantly easier. It's easier to forecast how long you can be off grid for and whatnot. But the idea of days of autonomy is something you'd never heard, and so what I was hoping to do today was try and explain that if I could. So what we're going to do is I've done what I always do. I've made a couple of little slides here. What we're not talking about now is a standard grid-tied solar system, right? Alright, so I decided to update the slides. I've changed this a little bit, right? So we're not talking about a standard grid-tied solar system. Alright, we're talking about somebody who's got batteries, or like they're completely off-grid and they're running on batteries, right? Then from that, we're going to assume that, we're going to use the total off-grid scenario, and we're going to assume that each one of these blue batteries is 5 kilowatt hours worth of storage. During the day, our solar system has the potential to produce up to 30 kilowatt hours, which covers our daytime use, but it also fully charges our battery, which is the full 15 kilowatt hours. Now, no one's going to do that, right? You're going to be 30% oversized, or try and be 50% oversized if you can, but just for the purpose of this, to calculate your days of autonomy, we're assuming that you're going to use all 15 kilowatts. So if you finish charging at sort of 6 o'clock at night time, just as the sun's going down, exactly on the dot, and 6 o'clock in the morning your charge cycle starts again, you've used all 15 kilowatts overnight, then you've got exactly 1 day of autonomy. Right, so the 15 kilowatt hours we used overnight has brought our battery almost down to zero, which is silly, we'd never do that, but what happens on a day where you don't actually have enough charge capacity? You're not going to fully charge the battery, right? So you're not even going to make it through a single night. So in this scenario, you don't even have a full day of autonomy. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to assume that we always make enough power to get through the day. So when it comes to sizing the battery, we're going to say that if the house is going to use 15 kilowatt hours overnight, then one standard household day is 3 batteries, right? And that is exactly 1 day of autonomy, because we expect that the solar that we produce, even when it's cloudy the next day, is going to carry us through the day. So we have 24 hours worth of power. We're going to get to the evening and no power is going to have gone to the battery, and then we have no power left. Which means if we have 30 kilowatt hours, we have 2 standard household days, or 2 days of autonomy. 45 kilowatts is 3 days of autonomy. So in the real world, like for us, we use 30 kilowatts a night. We use a lot of power. There's 5 kids in the house, 2 adults. We've all got gaming computers. We all like to play video games. So we'll use 35 kilowatts a night. With the really crappy days, we might put 10 kilowatt hours back into the battery when it's really, really significantly overcast. But all that does is makes up the slight difference. Like if we're at 28 kilowatt hours overnight, we've got 3 days of autonomy, right? If we leave a tiny bit of power left in the battery, that little bit of solar that we get on a really overcast day makes the world of difference for us. And it's really relevant right now because, well, look at our power. We really struggled. The last couple of days has been overcast and we haven't been getting power into the battery. So we have 3 days of autonomy, ironically 3 shelves. So I suppose that to answer old matey's question, the reason that, like, firstly, the idea of days of autonomy is what is your entire power usage versus like solar panels. Like this is I suppose the video needs to be way more complex than what I'm willing to do right this minute, because all we're talking about is the batteries. And why would I choose lithium batteries? Well, your battery power in a 24-hour period really is what you'd calculate in, because sometimes you might be consuming more power during the day than what your solar could produce. For the purposes of this, we're saying no, it's just the overnight power, but you need to figure out if the grid was down entirely or the solar was down entirely, can you source all of your power for a full 24-hour period out of your batteries? And if you know what that number is, that is how big your battery needs for 1 day of autonomy. And if you go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of autonomy, suddenly you need a massive battery. The flip side of that is, and I'm only touching on this really briefly, is that the reason I think these are better than flooded lead acid is charge efficiency. 99% of the power that you put in is actually going to go into the batteries, and you don't have to deal with the absorption period. So if I was going to send batteries back to Sri Lanka, to my family, to set them up in the best possible scenario, you need to know the local weather patterns and how many days in a row actually are you genuinely going to have overcast days. If it's 4 days, suddenly that's achievable. You do it with batteries. But if it's going to be longer than that, like 6 or 7 days, then you really want to diversify both, increase your solar panels and increase your batteries. His question was specifically around how big of a battery could you make in an industrial IBC as a flooded lead acid if you were to manufacture it yourself. And my advice is definitely don't do that at all. That's a pretty big undertaking, and I don't think at the end of it, it would actually be cost effective for the number of cycles you would get. You may as well just invest in one of these. Like if if this is a place that doesn't have a lot of power anyway, they're probably not going to be big consumers. There's probably just going to be a few handful of critical services that you need. If it's that rural, then I would expect that you might even be able to get a windmill up. Now, diversity of power is everything, right? If you've got a windmill and you've got solar panels and you've got batteries, and then maybe get a biomass digester and you might be able to run a generator on it. Yeah, like there's so many ways to do it that but I would not make a battery out of an IBC. And yeah, like I think when you're going to calculate out the maths, the days of autonomy is going to be really important to you, based on your weather conditions, particularly if the power is going to be mission critical for something. So I hope that answers his question. If you think I've gotten you that wrong, comment below. Yeah, we love the feedback, and I'll try and respond to everybody who, anybody who comments, I'll try and respond, and hopefully I've got my bloody voice back, because this is horrific. Anyway, guys, thanks. I'll catch you in the next one.